Hey y'all, it's time for another episode of Rolling Dice and Taking Names. Yes, the number one safe social distancing activity. Well, number one behind reading, crafts, playing video games, mowing the yard, scrubbing the baseboards, self-acupuncture.
Okay, Vanessa, I think they get it.
Sorry. Okay. In this episode, the guys catch up on all the games they played over the last month. They compare and contrast the games Great Western Trail and Maracaibo. Plus, they discuss the latest industry news from Asmodee and Plaid Hat Games.
Hello and welcome to Rolling Dice and Taking Names. We have recovered from the 5th annual Squirrelies. This is episode number 194. Don't worry, be happy. And I'm Tony.
And I am Marty, and Tony, that is a very appropriate name for this show. As it was this recording in March of 2020, we are going through something that's probably going to be remembered for a very long time, and that's I guess it's a pandemic of the coronavirus. It's now basically all over the world.
Hence the term pandemic. That's correct. Yes, you've used that correctly. So yes, the virus, COVID-19, so it started in 2019. It's serious. It is really serious.
It is serious. And I was going to say, it's a good thing that this happened now and not during the Squirrelies, because otherwise all of our guests will be stuck here in my basement and everything like that. Mm-hmm. And to be honest with you, Tony, I had this whole bit about how it's affecting us as it messed up our game group last week because people felt like, I don't need to be exposed and everything like that. And it's funny, a week ago, the jokes were funny, but just 1 week later, it's like, okay, maybe making jokes isn't the best things to do in this situation about this really tough thing that's going all over the world. So we're not. So no jokes or anything like that. But as your title says, Tony, don't worry, be happy. I guess just in these times, you just got to try to be positive and know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. We'll come out on the other side.
I'm positive that we will. I mean, one of the biggest things you can do is try to be positive for others and maintain that social distance, keep that arm's length away, make sure you're wiping down stuff, washing your hands. I mean, my heavens, make sure you're washing your fingertips between your fingers, doing, it's the special hand washing that surgeon does. It's Turkish something. I can't, it's escaped my mind right now, Marty. But anyway, be sure to take care of yourself because we are recording this on 3/16. So who knows what's happening when this is released on, what is it, 3/24 when this comes out?
Yeah, 3/24. I was just sitting there thinking it's going to be interesting that, let's say a year from now, somebody goes back and listens to this episode. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. That was funny. Somebody listening to old episodes. Yeah. Let's say hypothetically yeah. that a year from now, somebody listened to this old episode and they're like, oh yeah, boy, I remember that time. I hope that a year from now that we're looking back going, whew, that was rough, but I'm glad that's over.
So for you and I, another reason for the title of the song is Don't Worry, Be Happy. For us, the impact is financially as devastating because Donna told me what is happening to my retirement. Matter of fact, a good friend of mine was going to turn in his papers next month.
Oh.
He's going to have to work another year or two. So for us oldsters who need to take care of ourselves, everybody, I hope your family is safe and you are safe.
Who knows? I mean, markets may bounce back and stuff. It's, it's an ebb and flow of the market. This time next year, the stock market may be right back where it was and everybody's 401k will be great. Who knows?
I know from my company, Duke Energy, we were at the highest we've ever been at over $100+ in our stock. And today we hit 70. We are a public utility.
It'll go back up. It will go back up.
I know it will.
Me. But we don't want to talk about stocks. That's boring. Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about some of the other craziness that's going on right now. Tony, have you been to a supermarket lately?
I have been to a supermarket, to a big box store, to a Sam's, to a Quickie Mart, to a QT. The world has gone mad.
Okay, so today I was thinking, I believe that in like situations like this, there is a fine line between common sense and hysteria.
Yes.
So a person walks into a supermarket. Okay, they say that we should, kind of stay in our houses, don't go out to restaurants, etc. So let's just go ahead and get some stuff for the week. Oh, look, here's some ground beef. It's like, well, normally I buy 2 pounds of ground beef, but maybe I should go ahead and get 4. Wait a minute. What about if it's longer than that? Well, maybe I should, what? I'm just going to get like 8 pounds. And there's the first tip of a domino on like a product. So then somebody else realizes, oh, wow, there's less meat here than what there usually is. I was just going to buy 2 pounds, but maybe I had better buy 8. And then it just snowballs. And that's exactly what happens. You've gone from common sense, maybe make sure I take care of myself, to let me buy freaking everything, including half of an aisle of toilet paper.
Yes. Why? Why do you need that much TP? Why do you need 200 plus rolls?
I saw a great video from a guy that I follow on YouTube called Upper Echelon Gaming, who usually takes very serious topics in gaming, but he did a study on the toilet paper fiasco that's been going on during this time, and did some research to determine how much the average person uses. And these people buying hundreds of rolls, it said basically you just bought years worth of toilet paper for yourself. That's not needed. And he even talked about, he said, even in situations like this, where why is it people going crazy? Because there's a news out there on Facebook that toilet paper only comes from China.
That's stupid.
And it's like, no. And he showed all the biggest companies in the United States produce toilet paper right here in the country. It was just a really eye-opening video. It's like, look how ludicrous this is over toilet paper.
Yeah. And I mean, let's think about it, people. It is almost spring here in the Carolinas. In another 2-3 weeks, there's going to be plenty of toilet paper hanging off the limbs of the trees.
Why is that?
Did you not listen to our RPG where the two-head and Ettin was talking about ripping the leaves down to wipe his butt?
Oh, sorry. Wow, you made a connection that I just did not. I thought, like, what, is somebody going to TP the house or something during the spring?
No, they're going to go to the tree, they're going to rip a leaf off, and there you go. Life is good.
Oh, speaking of spring, is it not going to make it any more crazy? Because allergies are really bad around here with all the pollen. So somebody is going to get the sniffles and having allergies like they typically do, and they're going to cough, and everybody's going to point fingers at them. Coronavirus, when it's just simply allergies. It's going to get worse before it gets better. And it's one of those things, I wish people just used a lot more common sense. I think most of our listeners probably do, right? We have a great audience that does that. I will say this, though, with a lot of things that's been going on, recently, some states have started like shutting down restaurants and bars and stuff. If you can, a lot of those still have takeout. If so, try to support those businesses. A lot of them are small businesses. If you do go out to a restaurant that's still serving people as they come in, tip, because you never know when those wait staffs may be out of a job for a little bit while they shut down the restaurants for only, dine out or take out only. And even, Tony, even in the gaming arena, we have 2 large game stores here in Charlotte that has shut down their open gaming area of the store, and only the retail space is open. And that's going to hurt them, because both of those stores rely on foot traffic. They rely on people to come in, hang out, play a game, and probably buy something. So even small stores like that are going to be impacted with something like this.
Yes, they are. I know this is a big leap, but that's what this show is known for, is just, we just step everywhere. We don't care. So you remember back many episodes ago when I did a series called Statistically Speaking with a young gentleman, Taylor Pospischal.
Yes.
So Taylor is now Dr. Pospischal. He got his PhD in statistics, and he works for Google. So his parents were with us on the trip. Yes, I returned from our cruise, and I'm okay, people. Thank you for asking.
Did anybody ask?
No. Actually, you said people pointing fingers, and that will go to another story. People are pointing fingers at us, but I'll go to that later. But he is in San Francisco area.
Yeah. In fact, the main reason why we didn't game last week was because of you.
And, well, okay. Anyway, he is locked down. He cannot leave his apartment in San Francisco.
I understand the purpose of why some of these decisions are being made, but there's some livelihoods and stuff being, I don't know. I don't want to get into it because...
Don't worry, Marty. Be happy.
That's right. That's true. Because all day, every day, that's all anybody's talking about. And here, we're not supposed to be bringing people down. We're supposed to be bringing people up. And I know everybody's promoting about sitting at your house playing board games. A lot of people have been doing that. But go back to about pointing fingers, because I know part of this story, and I think this is funny.
So gaming night, I get back from the cruise. We had a wonderful time on Viking Star. We were doing Norway, chasing the Northern Lights. Got some incredible pictures that my wife posted out on Facebook, because I don't do Facebook. And she did all this. I get back, and one of the things that happened was she was uninvited to Bunko because we were on a cruise ship. First off, we were in Norway, where it's freaking cold, and there's like 17,000 people in Alta. And I'm like, the cruise ship was the cleanest thing, probably cleaner than your own house because of how they were cleaning it. Anyway, so she got uninvited. That was brick number one. Brick number two was trivia in the neighborhood got canceled.
Because of y'all?
They wouldn't say that. But they said there are some concerns about the virus and all like this. Maybe we should not get together. What do you think? And I let them know what I think. And my wife told me I wasn't very nice. So that's brick number two. Brick number three, why does it matter? I'm building a house here. He just keeps building up, and I'm ready to throw some bricks at, So anyway, I go, out of respect to my gaming buddies, keep in mind, I was on a cruise. Nothing is wrong. Everything's fine. But how do y'all feel? Because people are treating us as lepers. Well,
that's funny. That's so funny. Hey, look, and it's like people got to make their own decisions, and people decide, you know what? We're not going to take the chance, and that is fine.
It's fine.
You know, people recommend. I mean, I've heard today. Don't even here in the North Carolina. Was it the governor said we recommend not even getting together with more than 10 people at a time? It's gone from 100 down to 50. Now it's like down to 10.
That's it. You probably want to be able to sleep in the same bed with your significant other.
Just be smart, everybody. I think that, again, it's a fine line between common sense and hysteria. Common sense, if there's anything wrong, quarantine yourself. If there's nothing wrong, don't there's no need to risk getting anything wrong with you being in big groups. It's the same stuff we hear beaten to our heads every single day with how to live our lives now. I just hope that it's all proactive enough to where, it won't last as long as where it possibly could have.
Yeah, I hope this is over to the point where the disease, we've shaved the peak, we've rounded it, we've flattened it, we stomped on it, all that they're saying we're doing, so that it's over before the toilet paper gets restocked.
There was some good news today. The first trial vaccine for the virus is given to a human. I don't know what stage of the trial. There's different stages, but that's a good sign. So it's now being given to test subjects to see if it works. So who knows? Maybe in a few months, they're pushing this through as fast as they can, trying to avoid all the red tape. And who knows, maybe in 5-6 months, maybe we'll have a vaccine available that would take care of all.
Well, I hope so, because Gen Con, my gosh, man, Gen Con's in trouble. And I
know. Well, and look at all the cons that's been canceled so far. It's, one that's happening this weekend that you may not know about. It's a big miniatures con. Adepticon was canceled. I know the Gathering of Friends, which is a big deal for a lot of designers to get together, that was canceled. I fully expect Origins to be canceled in June. I could be totally wrong, but I think it probably will be. But will Gen Con survive? I don't know.
Okay, so here's another one. All right.
Another brick?
Another rant. If Gen Con gets canceled,
yes, and
I don't get my $50 back because of my hotel I canceled, I will be very, very unhappy. I was already unhappy for having to pay $50 because I canceled within a week of our hotel. And I understand why they did it, Marty. I understand why they charge or said we were going to charge you $50 to keep people from hoarding hotel rooms. I understand that. You got to put a little skin in the game so that you and me and Matt and whoever else we can get, Joel, Fred, Barney, Wilma, all down the line, don't go out and we all try to get a hotel room to try to get the best one. Because if I'm having to pay out $50, that's going to make me think differently, right?
Yep.
I was not happy about that at the beginning because I was like, this ain't right. When in a hotel do you cancel within the first week and get charged? I think there should have been more leeway in that, but there wasn't. But by gosh, if they canceled Gen Con and I don't get it back, I'm going to have to write a stern Post-it note.
But here's the thing: you're in the same boat as everybody else, right?
Yeah.
I mean that is that's written in the fine print for everybody that reserved through the portal for Gen Con. And God, we were supposed to have a big deal, Tony, where we announce our big strike event and everything. And we have dates, everybody. We have a date. We have a time. How soon do we promote it? I don't know. I'd hate to promote it and start selling tickets and then it doesn't happen. But I just want to say, everybody, if Gen Con happens, Tony has set up our schedule for the tournament. We have the Spaghetti Factory again on hold.
Old Spaghetti Warehouse.
Old Spaghetti Factory, OSF.
I thought it was OSW.
It's at the Spaghetti Restaurant. How about that?
There we go.
And
that's sad. We don't even know where we're holding the tournament. We just know it's somewhere down the street.
You go out of the hall, you go out of the convention center and go down the street, and it's like on the right. You can't miss it. Just go out of the convention center about a block and take a right. It's right there.
Yeah, it's near that restaurant where they are mean to you.
No, that's Dick's. That's another location.
I know, but I'm saying ours is right next door to it, isn't it?
No, it's not.
It's not? Okay.
No, Dick's is right near the Steak and Shake.
Oh.
Where we go for late night milkshakes and it smells like pee.
Okay, another appetizing thought.
It does. I'm just saying what it is.
All right, so we're going to have the Gen Con on Thursday night at 7 p.m. at the Spaghetti restaurant down near the convention center like we did last year. We've upped the ante as far as number of people. If we get to hold it, we will be announcing when the tickets go on sale. Same menu as last year. We got some spaghetti, got some lasagna. You get a salad. You get tea or a soft drink, and you get a dessert. You get some ice cream. Big time, but most importantly, you are there to support gladiators in the arena.
We'll see. I'm not going to get all psyched and hyped about it till we get closer to time and we think it's going to happen.
You better start warming up.
I better start practicing. I know.
Especially with the big announcement. Strike is back, baby.
A strike is back. And I thought it was just going to be a Harry Potter themed strike, but there's just a regular version of strike that's coming. And it looks just like a bowl with some dice. I mean, they don't even have the word gladiator anywhere on the box.
I can't help it that they're wrong. That's not on me. That's on them. They need to be correct.
No, I think it is on you.
We've tried. We've won 3 years straight. What does it take? 4 Pete? Maybe. I don't know.
So, well, at the rate it's going, yeah, it'll be a 4 Pete for sure. So anyway, that's kind of on the back burner right now. A lot more important things going on, but I will say that we do have it set and ready to go in case it does happen. So I hope it does, but obviously there's a lot more craziness that needs to be resolved before we ever get to that point. But you know what, Tony, while you were gone, I did manage to get a few games to the table before the craziness happened and people were starting to back out and not play games with us anymore.
Not that we hold grudges.
No.
Never.
No, we do not. And it's totally understandable because the person that backed out's probably listening to this. We understand. We're just picking with you.
Yeah, but before you get into the games, I will say one thing. I'm happy that our buddy Mark Kale.
Okay. Wow, we're throwing the name out there.
No,
Okay.
I'm not linking it back there. I am saying that he was able to secure Mega MooseCon again.
Yes.
No, and I just hope that the virus doesn't cancel that because Lord knows, I'm sure Mark is. Oh, I'm sure he will persevere through this in order to hold Mega MooseCon, right?
Yeah, I'm sure he will. That's going to come up in the middle of September. It's always a good time for us. And last year, there's going to be a possible change of venue, but it got all worked out. So, hey, if all these other cons currently are canceled, there's some that's going to be happening, in September and on that Tony and I will be a part of. I'm upset, Tony, because in middle of April, I was going to go to a little small convention in Knoxville called Fun K Town. Get it?
Funky Town.
Mm-hmm. But Word just came down today that the organizer of this event has said, you know what, we probably need to shut it down. So I won't be going to that, which is a bummer. So a lot of these big events are closing down. Who knows how long it'll go? But again, just hang in there. Everybody pull some games off the shelf. I see a lot of people like on Facebook and everything recommending games for their friends and family, which is good. And I will say that if you want to go out and get a game, just kind of referencing back what I said before, go to your local game store and get it. If they are shutting down things like here where the open gaming is shut down, they need your business. I know a lot of these places rely on the people who are sitting there to eat snacks and drinks and everything and buy supplies as they're sitting in there. So people need a reason to go there and buy stuff. And now's a good time to go buy stuff to come back and play with your family and friends.
You know, there's another brick in the wall for me.
Like Pink Floyd?
Yeah, you know what it was this time?
What's that?
I got to see that you played War of the Ring, you dog. You freaking dog. I cannot believe you. That's it. Rolling dice and taking names. Keep rolling dice. That's it. I'm done with you. I'm done. You played War of the Ring.
Okay, so here's why.
Oh, yeah. Try to excuse yourself from this one. Go ahead.
So our buddy Nate Bivens has been wanting to teach the game, and he said he could teach both you and I. And I thought I'd rather have somebody teach me first as opposed to you and I sit down and try to learn it ourselves, because that would just be a fiasco. So he came over one weekend a couple weeks ago and taught me the game for the sole purpose of Tony, so that I can now teach you the game.
Yeah, keep trying to dig out of it. Keep trying to dig yourself out.
So now that I can teach you. So we finally got to pull off the shelf the anniversary edition of War of the Ring that I've had for a couple years. It is an absolutely gorgeous set. All pre-painted figures, a huge board that you play on, nice tokens, nice cards and everything. And it is an amazing experience. I know a lot of people have told me War of the Ring is one of their favorite games of all time. They said if you like two-player asymmetric games like Star Wars Rebellion, like Netrunner and stuff like that, you said you really like this game. And I got a chance to play it. I played as the Freeze people, the Fellowship, and Nate played as the Shadow, and it is a solid game. It is a fun game. It's one of those things you probably need to play multiple times to kind of get the strategy and everything down. But what I was so impressed with is, even though kind of anything can happen in the game, it's amazing how in the game that we played, it kind of followed the books. As the Fellowship, you're starting out in Rivendell, and you're heading towards Mordor, and along the way, different members of the Fellowship, you can decide to have like Legolas lead the Fellowship to go off and do his thing, or Aragorn to lead the Fellowship and go off and do his thing. And that's exactly what happened. Meanwhile, the hordes of minions are coming out of Mordor, and Isengard, Sauron's out there. Saruman's out there making Uruk-hai, and he's generating all this stuff to put pressure on Gondor and Rohan, and I'm trying to defend against that. His goal is to try to take over as many locations as possible. My main way to win probably is to get the ring to Mordor and not get totally corrupted. And it was an amazing 3-hour game. Would you be in for a 3-hour game? Because that's what it is.
As long as there's plenty of potty breaks, you know I'm in. And, well, toilet paper, we're good.
You know how sometimes we'll play a game? Well, this may never happen to you because everything's going to feel long to you. For me, there are games that I've played. It's like, wow, that was 3 hours. It didn't feel like 3 hours. And this was one of those games.
So it's not like a game that's 3 hours that feels like 6 to me.
No, it's not. In fact, this one, I honestly thought I was going to look down at my watch and it was going to be like an hour and a half to 2. It just really moved that. And you're engaged with just 2 players. You're constantly engaged. So there's really no downtime. I mean, you're rolling dice and you have icons on them, and you use those to resolve actions that you want to do, play cards from your hand, muster units, move and attack. Man, it is good. The only weird thing that I wasn't that crazy about, and unless you've played this won't make any sense, there's this whole politics section of the board to where certain races of the Fellowship or certain races in Middle-earth will not engage in war unless they're pushed to war. And there's this idea of moving a certain faction like Rohan and Gondor, using politics to influence them. Hey, you need to jump in and help us. And if they don't, you can't start a combat. And I thought that was kind of weird. It's like Mordor can come in and start attacking me, which will push me closer to be willing to go to war, but it won't quite be there yet.
What?
That part was kind of funky to me.
Mm-hmm. I can see that. I mean, if someone's attacking you, I mean, you want to defend yourself.
And unless I'm remembering wrong, let's say if you attack me, Mordor attacks me, that moves my politics on the track down one level towards war. But if I'm not there, on my turn, I can't turn around and initiate attack back. Is that right?
I don't know. I didn't play.
I can only defend. I know I can't muster, and that was a big deal because I was wanting to bring in more troops. It's like, well, there's no need to bring in more troops because you're not at war yet. I was like, I need to get to war. But there are and that's one of the things you need to play over time. It's like, okay, I need to realize in the future there are things I can do with the dice and everything to move certain races down the politic tracks towards war to where they can build their forces and go out and fight as need be. But meanwhile, while this is happening, Sam and Frodo are, marching toward Mordor to try to dump the ring. Now, we had kind of an anticlimactic ending to our game. When you get to Mordor, there's like 5 steps to get to Mordor, and there's this corruption bag that will basically tokens are pulled from it that can cause corruption. And over the course of the game, I was adding tokens to the bag, which would help reduce my corruption, where Nate may have been adding tokens that would increase my corruption. So at the very end, as I'm marching my last 5 steps towards Mordor, each time tokens will be pulled from the bag and resolved. They could be good. They could be bad, but usually they were, if I get to 12 corruption, game is over. When I got to Mordor, my corruption was only 3. And Nate said, you've done really good so far. You really got a good shot at this. So there's this one thing though, in a bag of 25 to 30 tokens at the time, there's 4 tiles that have eyes on them. And the eyes resolve like this. He can dedicate a number of dice to the pool at the beginning of each turn. And every time he rolls an eye on a die, it's dedicated to a pool. When you're in that part, if you pull an eye, the number of dice that's been allocated is the number of corruption you'll take. It just so happens one time he dedicated 3 dice and rolled 3 eyes. So now there's 6 there. So I pull a token out of the bag. Out of 30 tokens, I pull an eye. It's like, well, great. That's 6. No fear, because guess what, Tony? I have mithril armor on, and the mithril armor card says, okay, put that token aside and draw another token. And lo and behold, you can probably tell where this story is going. Guess what token I pulled out of the bag?
Another eye?
Another eye. So I still took the 6 corruption. That token is now out of the bag. Now the original eye that I pulled out does go back in the bag. I said, fine. I'm only a couple steps away. I can still do this. Next turn, I get the bag and Nate says, you're pulling your own token. I'm not pulling it for you. Reach my hand into the bag of now 24 to 29 tokens and pull out another eye where 3 dice have been dedicated to it. Game over. So I made 3 straight pulls and pulled an eye token every single time. Left a bad taste in my mouth, man.
I can understand that. That's not fun. And that was after how many hours?
3.
See, that to me can be a flaw.
Well, it was just dumb luck. It was just dumb. There's some dice rolls in there. You may have some bad dice rolls of combat and everything like that. It was just dumb luck. And the interesting thing was, Nate had played this a lot over the years. And he said, if you hadn't have drawn those eye tokens, there's a very good chance it would have come down to one of us winning on the last turn. It's like, I wish we would experience that because he was very close to getting the last stronghold he needed to get to take over an area and win the way he typically wins. And in that same turn, I would have made the final step to Mount Doom, which I would have won the game. I wish I would have seen that, but just really bad draws, ended up causing me instantly 9 corruption and the game's over.
Right. And I guess, you did have one way to mitigate a bad draw. And what? Did the mithril armor get damaged?
Yes, it's a one-time use.
Okay.
And what's funny is I planned for it, man. It's like, all right, I'm going to keep this mithril armor. I'm not going to use it until I absolutely have to. It's like, now I absolutely have to use it. And dadgummit if I didn't draw another one.
If I remember correctly, Frodo was stabbed in the mines of Moria.
Frodo was stabbed on Weathertop.
No. After that, yes, he was. But then after Avondale, Frodo got the mithril armor from Bilbo.
Avondale? That's a board game. You need Rivendell?
Rivendell, thank you. That's okay. I'm watching 911.
Everdale.
911 Alston. It's got Liv Tyler in it. And I can't get past seeing her. That's not her role.
She's Arwen. She'll always be
She's
Arwen.
always Arwen, and here she's a paramedic. I keep waiting. Never mind. Sorry, squirrel. But from that standpoint, and Bilbo gives him the armor, and then when he goes into the mines of Moria, he gets stabbed by a goblin. And I don't see them chuck it aside.
Okay, so not everything is 100% according to the books.
Okay.
In this case, it was used once and gone. But again, I just thought it was so cool as the game was played, how the books kind of played out.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the big fight was in Gondor because it's right there on the edge of Mordor. I'm trying to sneak Frodo and Sam around everything. He's sending out the Nazgul looking for me because I'm hidden. But there's some times where I may be exposed, and the Nazgul makes it easier to find me. And if I'm exposed, then it makes it easier for him to corrupt me. Thematically, it's just so well done. So I can't wait for you to try it at some point in time. It's good.
I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, we'll get to play it before your memory goes soft and you forget the rules.
I know. And then right after that, we played immediately another 2-player game. You know our good buddy David Thompson, who does Undaunted and War Chest?
I think the winner of a couple squirrelies.
That's exactly right. He has a new game just came out from Phalanx called Europe Divided, which is kind of like a Twilight Struggle-ish type game. And it's post-Cold War. One of you plays as Russia, and the other side plays as the EU and NATO. And basically, you're trying to influence the countries in between each other over the course of the game. And it's one of those where there's goals that you have. There's these headline cards that come out that you decide what headlines you want to put into play. And the headlines will say, hey, at the end of this round, it plays over 20 rounds. Every even round, you resolve a headline. If you have influence cubes greater than the other person in this particular area, you'll get X amount of victory points.
Wow.
And the whole goal is to get the most victory points by the end of the game. But there's card play over the course of the game where you'll choose 2 cards and you can play, and maybe it's deploying more military people out into the board or moving military around. Again, it had if you had that, like the idea of kind of an asymmetric game, Twilight Struggle feel, but a lot lighter. It's one of those things I wouldn't mind trying with you sometime to see what you think. If you like that style of game. I don't know, have you ever played Twilight Struggle?
Funny you should mention that. I'm playing it on the iPad. I've played it a couple times with a friend of ours, Kevin. And he will invite me to a game. The last time I played that game, I told him I would never play this game again on the iPad.
Oh, why? Was it just the UI was difficult, or it was hard to play on that?
It was the card draw. It was a terrible, I had 3 scoring cards in my hand, and I only had control of 1. And if you don't play your scoring cards by the end of the round, you lose in Twilight.
Yeah.
So here I am out of my draw hand. I'm going to have to play 3 of these cards, 2 of which he's got control in. And I'm like, well, this stinks. And I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, screw this, forfeit. Don't ever invite me to this game again. That game, I guess, on the iPad has left first off,
bad taste.
Yeah, it has. And the tutorial is terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Yeah, maybe you'd like this one because it's a little bit lighter. It's one of those things that has multi-use cards. Every card may have multiple abilities. Like this card can be used either to get you some extra gold, or this card can be used to use that gold to pay for new units, or this card can be used to increase your influence. There's no dice rolls in there, but there's dice in there. When you go into an area and you can influence, you can increment your influence up to 6, and that's the most you can influence an area. But if the other side's military comes in, automatically bumps it down to 5. It's just some really cool mechanics in there. Multi-use cards, I think, are always cool. The idea of where each of you get to put a headline out. And if I see what your headline that you're working towards, I may go try to stop you from getting influence in that area. Likewise, you're trying to stop me, but we're also trying to achieve our own, headlines too, so we can score the points. It's a really good little head-to-head game. Took us about an hour and a half to play. I wish it had fallen into the hour range. On the box, it does say 90 minutes, and that seemed to be right. I'd like to play some more to see if we get it down to an hour. If you can get that Twilight Struggle feel in an hour and 15 minutes, I think that's a good sweet spot.
As long as you don't have a bad taste in your mouth. For me.
Exactly. And I think This is different enough where I don't think it would.
Okay.
I don't know. Again, this is one of those that's easy to learn too. It's quick, plays 20 rounds. After the 20th round, basically who has the most points wins. So it moves pretty smoothly, moves pretty quickly.
And I'm fine with that playing, trying it. I'm always happy to try a game and tossing it aside if it makes me grumpy. I'll be happy to try Europe Divided. Now, before I left on my vacation, though, I will say this: I got my satisfy contraption for my Switch. The big grip thing that you told me I needed to buy. It makes us old people not feel so bad with our thumbs.
Yeah, this is Satisfy Grip, SATISFYE, and you slide the Switch into it, and basically it extends, adds little grips to the side of the Joy-Cons to make it easier to hold. It's for anybody. My son uses it and going, holy cow, like I can hold this for like hours and it not cramp my hands at all.
So I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I'm getting ready to get on a long flight to England and then coming back, it's Oslo to Newark. And I'm like, do I really want to carry this Switch around with me, especially in this new contraption? Will I play it on the plane? I'm sitting there thinking all this. I can charge it on the plane. That's not a problem unless you're on a Scandinavian Airlines that has 220 and not 120. But that's okay. Then that's another issue. But anyway, I'm like, I'll play it on the boat. And Donna's like, just take the stupid thing because this is how you will at night. You'll play for a little while and put it aside. You'll go to discover a Korok leaf, little guy in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah,
that thing. So she says, you'll do that. I played my Switch 0 hours.
Really?
I know. I was very surprised.
What did you do instead?
I watched movies on the plane.
Yeah.
Didn't have time on the boat. At night we would go up and we would play Knock Mall or Little Devils or Opasha. Those were the games we were playing. So then I come home and I'm looking at the show notes and somebody has posted in here something about Bobble. What up?
Yeah. So I was fortunate enough to get an early key.
You suck again.
For Bobble that's coming out on the Switch. It's called Bobble 4 Friends, the number 4. And this is going to be coming out at the end of March.
Obviously, it's not a game for you and I because it's 4 friends and War of the Ring, Bubble. I see where this is going. Mm-hmm.
So there's a whole story behind Tony and I and Bobble. And Tony, would you like to fill them in on our history with this classic arcade game?
Basically, college roommates, we sat down with my Commodore 128, got the Bobble arcade classic. Marty said, even back in 1988, Marty even said, that's a fun game. You should buy it for your computer. Okay, I'll do that, Marty. And we would come home from class, his senior year, my junior year, and we would try to beat every level of this game. We would sit there and play this thing for hours.
But did we not achieve that and beat every level?
We beat every level. That's absolutely right. So when you said it was coming out for the Switch, I was so excited. I'm like, we will get to relive our college days.
That's right. But what's so great about this is it does include the classic game. So you like you walk up to an arcade machine and deposit a credit, play the classic game, classic graphics, classic music, but there's the new mode where it's couch co-op, brand new levels and everything. Up to 4 people can play at a time, and your whole goal is to clear a level. So you're presented with a level, you got all the ghosts going around, you try to bubble them, you try to pop them and progress to the next level and see how many levels you can get before you die. Just like the classic game, except now it's high-def graphics. It's the original music kind of redone, so it sounds a little bit crisper and a little bit better. And the fact that you can play with 4 people is just a blast. And I can't wait for it to come out so you can get a copy, so you can actually try this out and see how good it is. In some of our reviews of Switch games, call it No Quarter Required.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if anybody's ever noticed that, but the theme music I have play as the bumper is the Bobble music.
Mm-hmm. It will stick in my brain forever. That's okay.
Yep.
I'm excited. I can't wait for it to come out at the end of March.
At the end of March. And speaking of classic games. There's another classic game, Tony, that's coming out on the Switch this week as of this recording. You played Animal Crossing, correct?
A good friend of mine, he was a friend, and he told me, you need to go try out Animal Crossing. So I picked that game up for one of my Game Boy systems. And
I think it was DS.
And it did not grab me. It didn't.
I didn't realize that. For some reason, I thought you did like it. It didn't grab you, eh?
It reminded me of too much of work. I had to go do stuff. I had to go out and.
That's fair, because you had to go and work in order to pay your rent for your house. You had to go and earn bells.
I had to go do stuff at certain times.
That's right, and you had to go see Tom Nook and buy stuff from him, and you could build up your house, and it is kind of work because you start with a simple home, and you go out there and you could buy furniture and make it bigger. Then as you have more of a mortgage payment, and you go and plant plants, and you go and harvest those oranges or apples or whatever type of island you have and sell those. Well, so now on this one, Tony, it's basically you're dumped on an island and there's nothing there, and basically you're constructing the whole island at that point. So you're kind of island building, which adds this whole new twist. But reviews came out for it today, and on Metacritic right now, it's right around a 91%, and it says one of the best Switch games ever. My son, Brett, decided he wanted the special Animal Crossing Switch, so he sold his existing Switch and bought the new one that has the nice Animal Crossing dock and the colorful Joy-Cons.
I don't need Animal Crossing. I don't need that, because I guess what gets me, Marty, is a game like that from 7 to 7. I don't have the opportunity to get on and play. So what am I missing in there? You know?
And I don't know if it still does that. Yeah, for nobody's never played, there were actually certain times during the week, and at certain times merchants would show up. Like I remember one Sunday morning setting my alarm for 7 a.m. so I could wake up and turn it on as a merchant was going to come by from like 7 to 8 because there's something I wanted to buy from him.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the only other game that made me do this was Star Wars Galaxy, when I had to go look at my harvesters.
Yes.
And power those things and deal with that. But even then, I could do it so that I had it better planned. But yeah, see, that's the only thing about those games. I'm not sure. Hey, do me a favor. Why don't you purchase that and tell me if it's something I should really consider?
I don't know. I think I'm just going to watch Brett play because the same day Doom Eternal comes out, and I did pre-order that, and I'm ready to go shoot some demons. So totally contrasting games, big games coming out that day. Animal Crossing and Doom Eternal.
I can understand. I mean, did you ever catch them all?
You mean in the original Pokemon?
No, didn't you buy the Pokemon?
No, it's ridiculous. There's so many. I guess you theoretically could. No, it's too intimidating. I wouldn't even try it. I mean, even when there was like 151, 152 in the original Red or Blue, I came like, did I catch them all? I can't remember if I caught them all or not. I came very close to it if I didn't, maybe within one or two. But anyway, no, there's no way I'm going to catch them all.
Did you complete Breath of the Wild?
No, I did not. You've progressed so much further than that game I ever did.
I'm just trying to show a pattern here, dude. Just go kill monsters.
What?
Just go kill monsters. You don't need to do one of these games that requires you to just go, like you said, go get Doom. That's what you need.
So while you were gone, did get 3 other games to the table. One with Vanessa. This is a roll and write. You like your roll and writes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is a game called Unlocking Insanity from Peterson Games. This is a game where each of you are giving a sheet of paper that has a brain on it that's broken up into the different lobes of the brain. They're going to roll 2 dice, and you're going to pick one to put in a positive value of your brain. The idea is to try to keep each lobe of your brain in a positive number above 0. Because after you pick one of the dice to select and put into the positive row of a certain lobe, then you draw a negative die out of the bag that you're going to roll, and it will say, okay, in this color, you need to put a negative value in the lobe. And so over the course of the game, you're trying to mitigate what's like, I got to make sure I got to get a positive number here to mitigate this negative number here, because at the beginning of every round, you need to check and make sure that the sum of the positive numbers for each area of the brain is greater than the negative number that's been tracked there for the brain. Because if not, you're going to go insane in that one area of your brain, and you're going to take an insanity card that will be detrimental to you. It's going to do bad things to you. So it's this constant back and forth of trying to get the right number of positives to negate the negatives. Hey, that makes sense. And then at the very end, you're going to be the person with the most points wins. The idea of pulling a die out of the bag, you have no clue where you're going to have to put your negative value that turn, what color it's going to go into. Each lobe is represented by a color. And then when there's only one die left in the bag, all dice go back in the bag and you kind of start over again. The only thing I had about this game that was kind of tough is as you filled in all these numbers, Tony, at the beginning of every turn, you must add up 8 different sets of numbers. For every section of the lobe, there's a positive set of numbers and a negative. And you got to add each of those up, make sure that your negative isn't higher on each one of those, and then resolve from there. Because again, you're writing in these numbers down on everybody's turn. So when somebody rolls a negative number, you still have to write it in. You don't resolve it until it gets to you to see whether the negative part of that brain's higher than the positive part. I know that sounds somewhat confusing, and when you're playing it makes total sense. It's only the only thing that kind of got to us after a while. It's like, wow, let me add up these 8 negative numbers. Let me add up these 6 positive numbers. Okay, is the positive number greater? Awesome, I can move on to the next one. So there's a lot of little tracking. It would be good to have some scratch pencil and paper there so you could track it as you go along.
Well, I mean, yeah, for a roll and write, it'd be good to have a pencil. I agree.
Well, it's a scratch paper.
I know. I'm just giving you a hard time.
And the only other thing that was the paper is really nice, that the pad of paper and everybody that writes on, but it's shiny. There was an overhead light and there was a lot of glare on the paper. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of having to keep picking up the paper so I could see because so the glare on it. So again, Vanessa likes her Cthulhu themed games, which is what this is. This is a Cthulhu themed game where the idea is you're going to be going insane over time. Another good typical roll and write. Oh, there's some bonuses too in the positive value. If you can get all your positive numbers to equal a certain value for each lobe of the brain, it's like, hey, on this lobe, if you can get your positive values to equal 26, you get double bonus points. If you can get this lobe of the brain's positive sum to equal like 24, you get bonus points, etc. So there's other little ways that you can get points, and and again, the insanity cards can do different things to you over the course of the game. So if that sounds interesting to you, it's going to be coming out soon. It plays 2 to 5 players, 30 minutes, a solid little game. Got to check out the expansion for Empires of the North Romans.
Toga, toga, toga.
We actually all did wear togas that night. It was weird. This is before the coronavirus hit, so we thought we were pretty safe in togas that night.
I bet. I don't know. It was kind of cold, wasn't it?
It was, but
that's okay.
Mark keeps it.
So let me guess.
Warm in his house.
From the things I've read on our Pod Pledge page from Mark, and some of the things you posted out there, it is a hit.
Yeah,
it was good.
Yeah,
it was solid.
Yes. And again, just like in the Japanese islands, the 2 new factions are very unique. The Romans are also very unique in what they do. So you've got all the base factions in the game. You've now got 2 Japanese. You've got 2 Romans. So there are a lot of different things to choose from. The game is, I still really, really like that game. All the expansions still fit in the box. I worry at some point in time there's going to be too many expansions where they won't fit in there. Again, if you like Empires of the North, I think you need to buy both of the expansions. They both offer very different gameplay experiences and how they work. And we know that Barbarians is coming. He's already announced that. So he's got that game still alive and well. I still very much enjoy it. And I need to get to the table so you could try out the Romans. Actually, you never played the Japanese islands either, did you?
No, you don't let me play old games. You just say no. Here.
No, you just don't show up on the nights that we do play.
That's because I was on a boat.
Were you on a boat when we played Japanese islands? No.
No, I was working.
He was probably working.
I was working. So, while I was away, I received a couple of boxes of games. Thank you, Crystal, for getting those off my porch before some porch pirate did. Wouldn't that be disappointing as a porch pirate?
It's like, yes, okay. What is this?
What is this garbage?
I got a board game.
Yeah. One of them I'm interested in that I don't know anything about, but Ravensburg sent me Wonder Woman, Challenge of the Amazons.
You got Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman!
Dang it, I was wanting Wonder Woman.
Well, and you know what was funny? When I opened it up, I had Me TV on, and it was Linda Carter playing Wonder Woman. I was, yeah.
So Rodney has done a video for that. Play it and let me know what you think, because I want to know if Vanessa would like it or not.
Okay. Well, we'll trade. We'll trade Wonder Woman for I don't know. I'm sure you got something over there that Donna would want to play, like cartographers. That she'd like. I think she might like that.
Oh yeah, she would like that. We also got to try another game I was anxious to try too, and that's Ettin from WizKids Games. We play with 4 players. With 4 players, it's 2v2. You and your partner team up against other 2 people and fight each other. There's different factions with different abilities. This has a really cool drafting mechanic where there are cards that will come out that you and your partner draft to put into your hand. But what's interesting too is you also have a draft round with your enemy. So different cards come out like mercenaries and stuff that either one of you can draft and you take into your hand. And then you're going to deploy units out into a field of like 4 different spots. And they're going to deploy units, and then you're going to flip over and you're going to battle each area. So each of the 4 lanes you compete against, but you can also put in buildings or strongholds, or I can't remember if it was strongholds, but it's like buildings to provide extra defense. And you're basically trying to knock down the other's defense and everything. It's one of those things that plays up, gosh, was it like 8 players? So I think it'll be kind of crazy with 8, and you just team up with the person to your right. So like the person to your right's always like your buddy that you're working with. The person to your left is your enemy. So it kind of goes that way around, the board. No, that doesn't make any sense, because the person to my right, I'd be his enemy. That doesn't work at all, Tony. So just totally forget that.
So, this sounds kind of like when Rodney Smith was introducing your game of the year, holding on to the reward because you taught him wrong. And until you...
But this was right. We did teach it right with the 4-player. I know for sure that we got it right.
Okay. I just want to make sure, because I'd hate for you to be teaching another game wrong, like War of the Ring when you teach me.
But anyways, one of those things I thought was cool. I like the drafting mechanic. The art is amazing. The factions are very unique. The only thing that towards the end of the game, the combat was getting somewhat tedious because of so many units that come out then, and there's all these text on these units that you kind of have to read and resolve, and you have to add up all the strengths of the units. Any modifiers that come into play, you got to take care of that. And likewise, your opponent does that too, and you see who wins. And then there's this idea of like, okay, I beat you, so I get to take over the people that you had, and you put them into your pile of discard piles. And some of those units that you destroy have victory points. It's all about victory points, Tony, as always, right? Because at the very beginning of the game, you're going to count up all the victory points that you've conquered and everything over the course of the game. It's one of those things that all of us play. We enjoy playing. It's one of those that we probably need to play again. I'd like to get you in on this to see what you think. But the idea of this, like working with a partner and against somebody else and the drafting, I just thought was really sweet. And that's from WizKids Games. It just came out recently, and I've seen several people play it and everything. And I've seen some mixed feelings on it. I do think that playing with 8's probably a little too crazy, but 4 is probably the sweet spot. And you get it, it's a Ettin. It's a 2-headed thing, just like we were on the
Incorrigible Party
podcast. Mm-hmm. So when I posted War of the Ring, I thought, Tony, on social media, this post is going to blow up. Everybody wants to hear about my experiences of playing War of the Ring on Instagram, on Twitter. I did like a live story on Instagram telling my thoughts and feelings on it. And it got some interaction. But actually, the biggest interaction of that week was when I posted a picture on Twitter and Instagram saying, hey, I just got a Diet Dr. Pepper / cream soda that I'm going to try. And it blew up. All of a sudden, everybody's like, there's a Dr. Pepper cream soda? Where did you get it? Is there a diet version? Is there a regular's version? Is it any good? I got like 50 comments on this thing. People looking for the Dr. Pepper cream soda drink that just now came out. And I guess it's flying off the shelves because it's very hard to find.
You made fun of me posting my big bag of chips, on Instagram. And here you are saying, okay, I'm posting a soda and I got a lot of hits. That's what people want to know. They don't care about what we think about games. Come on, man. Get with the stick.
We just need to post food and be done with it. By the way, if you like Dr. Pepper and cream soda, try this drink because it's very good.
So speaking of food, in which we'll go into real quick, because I really haven't talked about my amazing vacation to Norway and chasing the Northern Lights. So there was one time where we went out to a Sami camp, which is the indigenous people of Norway and Russia. And they told us about their life and the hardships they've had and along those lines. And I did not know this. They own the reindeer in Norway, not Santa Claus. The Sami people own the reindeer. And so we're doing it, and we went to their camp, and we got to hear about their lifestyles. Very, very intriguing, very eye-opening. I mean, these people are living out there where it is minus 40 degrees Celsius.
No.
No,
I ain't doing it.
A reindeer can live up to negative 55 degrees Celsius.
Wow.
We were there and it was 15 degrees, and these guys had a couple layers on, and they were like, this is like a spring day. So I got to feed reindeer. They took us on a reindeer sleigh ride. I got to practice lassoing a reindeer antlers, things like that. When I was all said and done, this was at night. They took us into the hut and fed us reindeer stew.
That seems kind of odd.
Well, that's what the reindeer are for. It's their cows.
So how is reindeer stew?
Amazing.
Is it gamey?
No, it was not.
Oh, okay.
It was not very gamey. And then the next night on the ship, I had a reindeer flank steak. Very good. It was better than venison, I can tell you that.
I was going to ask, how does it compare to venison?
Yeah, much better.
Interesting.
It was very good. So, Marty, when you and Vanessa finally decide to take vacations, aside from board gaming conventions, you need to take her to Norway during the winter or during February so that you can experience more snow than you thought you would ever see in your life. You used to ski. You would probably enjoy the mess out of this. You and Vanessa both used to ski. You would enjoy the mess out of this.
I don't do cold well anymore. Even when I skied, I didn't do cold well.
I know. Layers, man. Nothing like snot sickles.
Hey, speaking of clothes.
See, I can tie anything together.
You do. Have you seen this Kickstarter that's going on right now from LudoCherry where they're selling shirts and skirts with like little board game patterns on them, but you don't really notice that they're board game patterns until you look really close?
Yes, I have. As a matter of fact, by putting the link in our show notes, you reminded me of it.
Okay. I just think those are really cool. It's already funded and everything. And there's like these little floral patterns and everything. And at first you think, oh, those are flowers. And then when you look closely, wait a minute, those petals are actually made up of meeples. Oh, that's cool. Or these little just little designs like at polka dots, and you look really closely. Wait a minute, those large polka dots are dice. I think it's some really, and there's one that looks like that's like two stems and two cherries, and you look like even closer. It's like, no, those two cherries are actually dice. It's some really cool ideas. It's heavily funded right now. It's got like $70,000 it's made so far, and it only needed 15 to make its goal, so it's well over when this episode comes out. So we're gonna have like a day or so left. Tony will put a quick link in the show notes if you want to go check it out before it closes, and hopefully if it does really well, that even if you didn't catch the Kickstarter, hopefully they'll have an online store where you can go and order these once these become available after all the Kickstarter pledges are shipped.
If anything, go give them $1 because they've got Rodney Smith from Watch It Play out of plaid. He's actually wearing them.
Does Rodney show up on everything now?
I don't know. He's in this, so I was just looking down through the Kickstarter ad and thinking, okay. I mean, well, Watch It Played. These patterns are a wink and a nod to the hobby without hitting you over the head with it. And I love that. Rodney Smith, Watch It Played.
Is that his quote?
That is his quote.
Gosh. Wait. Say that again, please.
Okay, here we go.
All right.
These patterns are a wink and a nod to the hobby.
Oh, stop. A wink and a nod? What is it, like Santa Claus? What is this? Did he do this over Christmas when he had just heard it was the night before Christmas? What was it, with a wink and a touch of his nose or something like that?
Well, it's just kind of like, that's cool, y'all. Yeah. That's the thing. These patterns are a wink and a nod to the hobby without hitting you over the head with it. In other words, it's subtle. Could he have said these patterns are subtle without hitting you over the head with it? He could have.
He could have, but he didn't. He went with a wink and a nod.
You know what he should have done? These patterns that you can discover on your own are subtle without hitting you over the head with it. See, discovered. He could have gone with a tagline.
Oh, he could have. You had to discover these shirts on your own. There are more patterns on the Kickstarter, but I'll leave those to discover on your own.
There you go. That's exactly it. Scroll down to discover more of those. If we find more, maybe they'll discover more patterns. I don't know. Oh, my heavens. So they do look cool, man. I'll give you that. Hey, I'd even chip in half price if you'd get you out of flannel. Or, out of plaid. I know, and you do the same thing if you'd get me out of hoodies. Okay.
That's right. Okay. Touche. Now, typically when we talk about Portal games, we talk about the games. But I would like to share something else with you. If you're not following them on YouTube, please go do so, because each week they release a vlog. It's a very well edited, very well produced vlog where Ignacy goes over some of the games he's working on, some of the designs that he's doing, some of the play testing that they're doing. But also every once in a while, he'll just look at a certain aspect of the industry and talk about it. He talked about his thoughts on Asmodee, which actually, at the end of this episode, Tony and I are going to be talking about some stuff that's going on with the Asmodee. So he gives you some insider information to the industry and his thoughts on it as a publisher. Really, really informative videos. There's some humor in there. The music's in there. It's really well done. So if you want to go check those out, again, once a week they come out. Go over to YouTube and search for Portal Games and make sure to subscribe and hit that little notification bell so that you won't miss each week when he releases his Portal Games vlog. One of Tony Mine's favorite Euro games of the past several years is Great Western Trail from designer Alexander Pfister. Am I correct, Tony?
You are correct. Nothing like trains and cows.
What are some of the things that we like about Great Western Trail, Tony?
Deck building.
Yes, we like our deck building games, and it's really cool to have this kind of medium to heavy Euro with deck building in it.
Yes, we love our set collection.
And one thing that appealed to you again was the theme. You like the whole Western theme of basically you're taking your, I guess they're cowboys?
Well,
they're herders, cow herders. They're, what are they? Wranglers. There we go. They're trying to wrangle cattle up the trail to put them on a train in order to ship them off for, well, we'll just call it victory points.
We're selling them. Let's be honest. Got to get them on the train. Got to get them out there. We love our variable setup. Just love that. You don't know, the board's never the same. We enjoy that. That's another reason why we like Great Western Trail.
Yeah, because over the course of the trail, different buildings can come out each game. And then each of you have your own set of buildings that you're going to put out. They can give you special actions. And if somebody stops on your building, you get money. So you got a lot of interesting choices you have to make. You got player boards where you can, one of those mechanics where you can remove pieces from the board that unlocks other abilities. Like when you put your cattle onto a train and you ship them to a new city, you get to take one of the discs off your board and put it in that city. When you take the disc off the board, it has a new ability for you. Say, for example, increasing your hand size, etc. There are a lot of different things going on. So it's one of those things that first time we played, we just loved how everything worked together. Well, recently at Ettin, Capstone Games released a new game called Maracaibo, which is also by designer Alexander Pfister. And we had heard that this was like the spiritual successor to Great Western Trail. So I could not wait to get my hands on it and play it. And this past week, Tony, you and I got to sit down and play our first game of Maracaibo. And this game has been talked about a lot. It's been a very popular game. A lot of people have reviewed it. But what I wanted to do, Tony, is you and I are going to talk about, well, here's our first impressions of this game and how it compares to one of our favorite games, Great Western Trail, and kind of bounce back and forth, see what do we like better in one game, maybe over the other. And if you're listening to this, you might find something, oh, well, I would like Great Western Trail better because of this aspect, or maybe Maracaibo better because of this aspect.
So let's begin the ping pong. So what's something that came to your mind, Marty?
Well, you mentioned deck building. So deck building does not exist in Maracaibo, right?
No.
I love games that use deck building in a very intelligent way. And Great Western Trail was one of the first ones I think that ever did that. So when I heard it was a spiritual successor, Maracaibo, I thought for sure it was going to have deck building in it, but it does not at all. It's not any aspect of it. Oh, speaking of the theme of it has to do with ships sailing around the Caribbean, picking up goods, selling goods, etc. So that's kind of the theme of it. As somewhat like Great Western Trail, where you're moving your Wrangler around the trail to get to the end, here you're moving your ship around the oceans and everything around the different islands to make one complete loop. So the thing that stuck out to me first is one has deck building, one does not.
So from the Great Western Trail aspect of it to getting your cowboy to Kansas City, you have multiple options to move along the path. And the same thing exists with Maracaibo. I said that wrong. Maracaibo.
See, now you're making me second guess myself.
So
Maracaibo.
Well, okay. Marakaibo. Mara.
Okay. We're going to do this live. We're going to see how this is said.
By Google?
Well, of course.
Okay.
Here it is. How to pronounce it.
Maracaibo. Spanish, Maracaibo.
So GWT or M. That'll save me some time.
GWT. There you go.
From a deck build, you're right. There's no deck building in this game. But there is an aspect of using cards that has captured our fancy, and that is Marvel Champions, where you're using cards to pay for stuff. And it makes a very hard decision. For some odd reason, that's always been something we've enjoyed. The same thing happens, even back in Netrunner. Which cards do I want to put down or discard? You're having those hard choices. I know you weren't paying for anything in Netrunner, but anyway, you're sitting there and you're like, I really want to keep this card, but I really need to use this card to pay for something.
So it's a multi-use card.
Mm-hmm. And so which of the two do you like? The deck building side of it, where you need to increase your cattle herd at the end to help you move down the trail, or the fact that you're using cards and having that hard decision? I felt there was a harder decision to be made in this in M.
Well, of course, because the cards also have secondary abilities. And if you can pay for the card and get it into play, it gives you some abilities that you can use over the course of the game. But the cards also have little resource icons on them. And when you go into a port, you can spend a card. Let's say there's a port that's wanting corn, and I have a card in my hand that has the corn icon. I can discard that, take one of my tokens off my player board, and put it on the spot on the map. And just like in Great Western Trail, which I like, taking a token off my player board unlocks an ability. So there's additional abilities that you can unlock on your player board over the course of the game, and that's done by delivering goods. And the cards are used for that, or the cards are also used for just paying their resource costs, getting them into play, which will have an ability. For example, one of them is putting out one of your meeples on the board, and they're like an assistant, right? So the next time you stop at that island and your meeple's there, then you could take advantage of the abilities on that card every time you take a loop around the Caribbean.
I had forgotten about the board in Great Western Trail and how you build on it. That's interesting. I had not linked those two. I mean, it's harder to do in M versus GWT in my thought process of it, because I'm sitting there thinking, okay, so here I was adding the tokens, the engineers, the cowboys, and that kind of stuff to unlock things. Here it was very important to unlock added benefits on the board in Maracaibo.
Wow.
Maracaibo.
Kaibo.
I'll never get it, man. This thing will last forever if we won't wait for me to pronounce it right. Why is this so hard for me? I don't know. But okay, so yes, I enjoy that aspect of the game as well. What else did you enjoy?
Which aspect?
The unlocking of the board.
Well, that's on both of them.
No, I like the harder aspect of it. Back on M, I like that one better.
Okay, so you like the idea of delivering goods in order to open up
Yeah.
actions. And I also like that there's two types of actions. Depending on where you stop, there's an island action or a city action where you pre-populate the board at the beginning of the game on some spots that'll give you an ability or action you could do at that spot. But if you stop at a village, then you could take village actions. Mm-hmm. And you could take one of several village actions. And as you unlock stuff on your board, it opens up more village action options. I also think it's cool, Tony, is when you move your ship, you can move 1 to 7 spaces. And the further that you go, the more village actions you can take if you stop at a village.
So you don't feel as penalized for not crawling along.
Exactly. Because if I jump 7 spaces, then I can take 3 village actions. Those village actions may be, get additional gold, play a card. One of the things you can unlock on your board is, hey, you only have to move 5 spaces in order to get 3 additional actions. Or it could be, hey, instead of 4 cards in my hand, I get to hold 6 cards in my hand. And having a bigger hand size is huge in this game.
Mm-hmm. So this is the part that confused me about this game, Marty. And it took a while for me because there's
which one? Maracaibo or Great Western Trail?
M. So there's 4 rounds in this game, and I'm doing the village actions. You could do 1A, 2A, or 3As, depending on how far you move, right?
Yes.
So if I move to the villages and I go there and I do these A actions, can I then do the lower actions that are on my player board? Or you have to do those A actions, right?
Remember, you unlock additional A actions. It just gives you additional A, or we're using the term A actions. It's actually on your player board, the letter A, which are like village actions. So anything on your board that has an A, it can be done. So if I can do 3 A actions, you had the 3 existing that you start out with, plus any additional that you've unlocked.
Right. So I'm looking at the player board. It's, and the first time you move your ship and then you go into the B segment where if you're in the village, you can do the A actions. Are all the A actions included there of buying a card, taking a token, or doing an action that you may have unlocked, or you may fulfill a quest, or you may activate an assistant? Right?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes. If there's an assistant there, you could do that instead.
So, and this is the thing that kept throwing me off during the game. I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I'm in a village. I want to do 2 A actions. And I'm sitting there, okay, I want to use this assistant and buy a card. No, you can't do that. You can only do these actions that are labeled A. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because eventually I caught on like, oh, that's this iconography. I understand this. It's labeled on the board very well. Do this here, do that there. So if it has this symbol, I can do it during this phase. And I think that's the beauty of this game as well. It's also part of Great Western Trail. The iconography is solid in this game. So as you talk about being able to do these village actions, I'm like, well, where are they? I can quickly look at my board. Something else I liked about the game.
Another thing that I really liked about the game, too, is you talked about it 4 rounds. I like it. It's fixed at 4 rounds. As soon as somebody's ship gets all the way around the loop, the round immediately ends. There's an intermediate scoring phase. Then everybody resets their ship at Havana, and then they start again. And after the 4th round, you do that final intermediate scoring phase, then a final scoring, and the game is over. But the thing is, though, with each one of those rounds, Tony, I felt like every round took about the same amount of time. Like there was really nothing being added to the, I guess you could add like some additional assistance and stuff that you could stop in and do some things and along the way, but each round took about the same length of time. With Great Western Trail, that is not the case at all. Because remember, in the Great Western Trail, there's a lot of empty spots. And as you move, you don't count those empty spots as part of your movement. But as people buy buildings and put them on the board, all of a sudden, each loop you go, you slow down a little bit each time because now there's more buildings you have to cross over. That by the very end, one trip through the trail takes way longer than the first trip through the trail. In some instances, Great Western Trail could drag towards the end of the game because of that, where it's like, I just want to get to the end and have it be done. But with Maracaibo, it can work out. You can, if you feel like you have got a good lead, you could just jump 7 spots each time and get to the end as fast as possible and end the round for everybody. That's another different thing about Great Western Trail. If you got to the end everybody else just kept on going. They didn't reset. So you may be on your second time through the trail, and I still may be on my first. You actually could lap me potentially. Not so with the case of Maracaibo. It will always reset at the beginning of each round with every ship going back to the start position.
So let me address a couple of things you pointed out there. The first one is you talked about how it could drag on in Great Western Trail as you kept adding more slots here. I agree with you. You can quickly move through M. Unlike Great Western Trail, you can jump to the end. Especially it can be a strategy. If the other players are putting out a bunch of assistants that allow them to stop and do actions, you may want to force them to hurry their little ship along. Stop dragging your anchor and let's go, because you don't want them to be able to take those actions. That is part of the gameplay that you've got to consider in as you're playing this game. Now, you may be sacrificing going into villages and doing that as well, or you may be sacrificing getting money or the victory points you need, but it is something that may force your hand, especially if you don't have out assistance. That is a very good balance in that game. And I like that. I thought that was pretty interesting because you had like 5 assistants. And by the way, these assistants are not easy to get.
Yeah, because they cost a lot of money to get out there. And by the way, you can only take advantage of your own assistant. You can't take advantage of somebody else's. In Great Western Trail, I can land on somebody else's building and pay them and then use their abilities.
But these cards are in my tableau in M, so therefore I can only get that assistance. And it puts an interest in, I'm in this village. Do I use the assistant, or do I need to really replenish my hand or get some money or do something like that? So another hard decision to make. But I'm with you. I agree. Forcing someone to get to the end. Now, people may be sitting there thinking, but that blows for me because I've built up this great strategy. Tough. You got to deal with it. And there's a race to the quest as well that are on the board. The quests are coming out each round.
Yep.
And you need those for possibly victory points at the end.
Yeah, because every time you finish a quest, you put it on your board. And then there's these prestige cards, which are like in-game scoring. And the one of them that we happen to have out was, oh, by the way, you get like 2 points for every quest that you've done. Well, now you've got a goal to shoot for, right? One of them was 2 points for every assistance you have out on the board, which was me doing that. Great Western Trail does have hidden objectives that you select at the beginning of the game. At the beginning of the game on Maracaibo, you have what you call career cards, which everybody can see, but it's like little goals that you need to achieve. And for every goal you achieve, you get a worker put in your pool that you can use. And once you have that card empty, you can flip it over and get like a couple victory points and stuff. So there's no like hidden goals. I do think the scoring is more wide open, no, more visible. Let's put it that way. It's more visible in Maracaibo because kind of at the end, there's an influence thing, which I'm going to talk about in a second, which is one thing that I kind of still have to wrap my head around. Aside from that, the scoring is pretty straightforward. There's no hidden scoring or anything like that. You kind of see what people are going to get. With Great Western Trail, not until the very end when people show, okay, here are the objective cards I've been working on and stuff, and here are the ones I can fulfill. And there's also a lot more scoring that's done in Great Western Trail. I mean, they give you a whole tablet for each of you to score each individual element. That doesn't exist in Maracaibo. So the very end scoring of the game takes longer in Great Western Trail than it does in Maracaibo.
Yes. I mean, you're absolutely right. I like the scoring in M a lot better.
We also didn't mention this either. There's an adventurer. Each of you have an adventurer that's on the board, and there are certain times as you move along the board where you can move your adventurer down a trail or down a path. And as it moves, it will give you like victory points or additional gold. And there's also quests on that path too. So that one is a race. Because if you can get to a quest before somebody else does, those quests don't refill. So once it's off the board, that's it. It's gone. And the further you get down the track, and Tony, you did an amazing job at this. There are a lot of victory points at the very end of that adventurer's path, and you got there and were just racking up the points.
And I took a wild guess that was an important part of the game. When you play a game for the first time, you're always trying to learn on the points. Now, you did say that those quests don't refill. On the main adventure board, the quests come out, but they're dictated by a specific card and they're not in the same area.
Yes. It's the story card, which is a whole nother really cool thing. So we just played the non-story game, just like a standard game. There's a whole story element, Tony, that as you play the game, these story cards will come out where decisions will be made, and based on the story card will dictate what quests come out. But not only that, there's these campaign tokens that are placed on the board that will change the locations and what they provide and what they do. So the idea was that maybe over the course of 12 or 13 games, it's kind of a legacy style game. It's not a permanent change. It's just that, okay, last time we played this game, we stopped at this story. Here's the setup for this story. Put these tokens here, these quests here, etc. And then you set up the board that way, and you play through the story like that. But you don't need the same people playing every game. It doesn't matter. I could play with 3 brand new people this part of the storyline and move to the next one, and the people won't really know the difference. It's just the board will have a different setup than the one before it, but they won't know how it got there, and it really doesn't matter. That's one part of the game I would love to explore more, as the whole story-driven part of the game. I think that looks really cool.
Right. One part of the game you haven't really mentioned, and if you do, I'm going to go to the restroom because it still baffles my mind, and that's combat. The ability to do combat on the high seat.
That was a little different because there are certain icons where you can do combat. You're going to take a combat tile. You will determine who you're doing combat for.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Who you're representing. And you're going to get a amount of strength based on that combat. Some will have more than others. Talking about the countries, France, Spain,
Portugal.
And Portugal. Yes, thank you. And then you can spend that strength in order to get things like, well, I'm going to spend 2 strength in order to place an influence token of that country on that spot. Let's say you're representing France and Spain is there. Then you have to pay additional swords. It costs more to remove the existing influence cube and put that country's influence cube there. And the whole goal of this is because these influence cubes end up being kind of like an area control game. And the more cubes that you have out at the end of the game, if you've obtained a lot of influence with that particular country, you're going to score more points. And to me, Tony, that was the trickier part of the scoring of the game. Over the course of the game, there's 3 tracks, 3 countries where you can gain influence in. And at the very end, depending on how many of those color influence cubes are on the board, they can get bonus influence. And the further you go down in the influence track, the more victory points you'll earn per cube that's been played on the board.
It still hurt.
And here's the thing. That was what was really messing me up. Now, again, our first time through the game, I was just like, I am not grasping the concept of how the scoring of influence is going to happen at the very end of the game. Now, once our good friend Nate slowly walked us through it and explained it to us, it's like, oh, okay, I'll get it. And because I didn't realize how important it was, you guys did. So the next time I play, I'll know how important it is. But I think that's one of those things, playing for the first time, you really need to get somebody to understand how that works. To me, Tony, it's kind of like the trains in Great Western Trail. You know, when you get to the end of the track, there's like 5 steps you go through. In order, you got to put out tokens. You get money for each different cattle that you have. And then you can move your train along the track based on the money that you got. There's that whole thing going on that it takes a couple times to really click. For me, that's the same thing with the combat and influence in Maracaibo.
Because I'm going to be honest with you, I was a blind squirrel finding an acorn. I had no clue. Okay, so by removing cubes, I expose victory points. I take those victory points and multiply how far I am on the track, and that's going to give me victory points at the end. And if that flag that I have the most has the most, then it adds +1 more to it. All right. So
or +2, whatever it was. Yeah, like the most got plus X amount, and the second got an additional. The third got nothing.
Right.
Yep.
So it's either going to be 6 times this number of victory points, either +1 or +2, or however they did it. And you're right. And depending on how far I am on each of those tracks, and what I didn't see, the penalty was if I did not win that track, I still got victory points. You can't do all 3. That's a given.
Right.
You can't do that.
Right.
So if someone else is benefiting you, like you were removing this color and I suddenly went out there and was able to multiply by 3, and you were doing all the hard work of removing the cubes, then that was a good thing for me. Right?
Yes, because I was moving up really quickly on one track, and Nate kept eliminating those cubes off the board to where all of a sudden the value of influence on that track wasn't as much anymore because he kept getting rid of those cubes. And then the ones he put out there all of a sudden were the most valuable.
Well, they had the majority.
No, you're right. It was the majority. You're right. He was the one that got the +2 points, not me like I was hoping.
Well, but then I took it away from him. He got
That's true.
The one track got the +2, and he and I were way ahead over there. So 4 + 2 is 6 times 4 is 24 points. We got that. Where you got 4 + 1, 5 times 4 is 20. Did it really make that big of a difference?
So everybody can understand how this area influence thing
Exactly.
is kind of heady. And it's one of those things you just kind of figure out. Again, to me, it's like the moving of the train in Great Western Trail. You kind of got to get a grasp on that, and you got to get a grasp on this. But it really doesn't come into play. The points don't matter until after the game is over. And that's when you score those influence points. But that's something you need to be cognizant of as you play the game. So, Tony, here's the thing. Here's my question to you. By the way, we played 3 players. It took us 3 hours to play, right?
Mm-hmm. Learning game, yeah.
3.5 with a rules teach. And Alexander Pfister came on Twitter later on and said, by the way, expect about 1 hour per player for your first game, and you could probably get it down to about 2 hours total for like 3 players after that.
Okay.
So, Tony, here we go. I'm going to pull out 2 games and put them in front of you, Great Western Trail or Maracaibo. Which one would you be right now more interested in playing? And for the audience sake, remember, we love Great Western Trail. It's one of my all-time favorite Euros. So both of these games I think are good, but go ahead, Tony.
Does Great Western Trail have the expansion with it?
Oh boy. Let's say yes, because we've said the expansion makes the game better, right?
Mm-hmm. The expansion makes the game better.
Okay.
Ooh, there are a lot of variables here, a lot of things going through the mind. I'm sitting here thinking, I hate not backing up GWT. And going with it over M. I'm sitting here. I'm going to say, I'm going to have to go with M.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I did not think you would say that because I thought you said last week that you might go with Great Western Trail. So after stewing on it a few days, you think maybe Maracaibo might be the next one you want to play?
Only from the standpoint of I need to understand it better. And I think maybe the pendulum or the needle will shift. We need to play them multiple times to see, where's the strengths, where are the weaknesses. Does this legacy thing hold up? How repetitive will moving the ship around the board get? How repetitive? See, I think with Great Western Trail, the reason why it may eventually win out is the placement of the town pieces for the Cowboys.
So the buildings that come out on the board makes the board totally different every time you play.
Exactly. And I think that's what may have the needle eventually shift it back to GWT after I've gotten some other M under my belt.
But I think that's where the story comes into play, right? Because the board does change state between each game. So right now, I would say Maracaibo also. I miss my deck building. I love deck building games, and I love that part of Great Western Trail. I love that aspect of it. So I would totally miss that. But I do remember towards the ends of some Great Western Trail games of it dragging on because it takes so long to get down the path. With Maracaibo, it's just basically 4 almost equal playing time rounds throughout the game, which I tend to like a little more because I can kind of know exactly how long it's going to take. And there can be a race to the end to force the end of the game. And I'm very curious to see how about the legacy works. So I'm with you, Tony. I love Great Western Trail. It's an amazing game, but that should tell you what we think of Maracaibo to put it right up there to go, well, you know what? I'm going to keep playing this a little bit more to see what I really think about this. It's 2 amazing games from Alexander Pfister. I just love him as a designer. He's done a great job, and I'm glad that Capstone was able to nab this game. It's another feather in their cap. It's one of the reasons they won Publisher of the Year last year.
Not going to argue with you there. MiniatureMarket.com. They've got games, they've got accessories, they've got inserts, they've got dice, they've got bags to carry your games in, they've got shirts. It's like going to Walmart online. They got it all right there. Pretty soon they'll be offering snacks too. Hey, that's an idea, Marty. Maybe they could offer us snacks as well. I mean,
They better offer moon pies.
exactly. Why not? Why could they not offer those non-perishable design things? Just think if they were offering toilet paper.
They make a fortune. With every order over 100, you get a free roll of TP.
That's right, at miniaturemarket.com, where we're thinking about you game players. Man, yeah, that would work well for us all. Be sure to go check it out. The daily deal is back. Never do know when that's going to hit. Be the game you want, because just, recently a mole from, I think it's AMUL, a mole? Is that correct, Marty? I don't know. From Stronghold Games was out there for $15. An incredible under-the-radar card drafting game that you could pick up. Be sure to go check it out. Sign up for the newsletter at miniaturemarket.com.
Tony, while you were on a boat,
Yep,
there was a lot going on back here in the games industry.
there was.
It seems Asmodee is in the news a lot recently. Obviously, Asmodee is one of the biggest, I guess it probably is the biggest hobby board gaming publishers, probably not bigger than Hasbro, out there right now, owning like, Fantasy Flight, Z-Man Games. They just made a couple of major announcements. One, they're going to create their own distribution channel. Now, this is a pretty flippin' big deal because their games are so popular. The fact that they're pulling their games out of other distributors such as GTS and Alliance is a big deal to those distributors because they're going to be losing a lot of money. They're still going to partner with a distributor called ACD, but now ACD is actually having to compete against Asmodee because if they're doing their own distribution, what they're doing, and I've read on ICV2 that this will basically increase their profits by 10 to 15% by doing their own distribution. So I understand why they're doing it. But basically, you're really hurting a lot of other distributors out there. And now retailers only have two places they can go to get Asmodee games. So on the business side, Tony, that's a pretty big deal. And this is one of the things that actually Ignacy touched on in one of his vlogs about how they kind of already done that in Europe, and he was expecting it to happen in the U.S., and now it's happened.
One of the things about being on the ship is I don't get a whole lot of news, which is fine. And from my standpoint, and what little I know of these type things, when I was reading the show notes and I saw AC/DC, I started going, dirty deeds, done dirt cheap,
Well, it's ACD.
I understand.
Not ACD. Okay.
I know I misread, and that was my mistake. So I'm going to trust you on this, that this is a big deal that other distributors cannot push out their games. I mean, I don't know how much Asmodee has in the game market from the standpoint of games coming out.
A lot?
Well,
A lot.
put a percentage on it. Is it 25% of the games coming out?
Oh, I can't put a percentage on it, but look at all the studios that they own, which will be actually a little side note, another little note I want to talk about in a second. But right now they own, like I said, Z-Man Games, they own Mayfair Games, or they own the Catan line, they own the Ticket to Ride line, they own the FFG.
Okay, so from that standpoint, nothing wrong with this. They own some companies that have, what is the term, evergreen?
Yes.
Evergreen games. They have those.
Yes, and now they're going to be doing distribution for those evergreen games. So instead of, our local game stores being able to go to any distributor that they want in order to get the best price, they're down to two, ACD and Asmodee.
But are they going to price fix like they did with their map?
Yeah, well, no, map is still there. And in fact, that's another thing, Tony. They've actually increasing the prices on some of these games. Some of the games like Ticket to Ride, and it has some other examples, are going to go up $5 per box.
Okay. Well, it doesn't matter because you're not going to be able to get them because, unfortunately, the production machine is shut down.
Because of all the stuff that's going on
Yes.
in China right now. I mean, it's basically slowed down. I think they've started back up again. But yes, I mean, that is going to be an issue. So again, this juggernaut of Asmodee is still, chugging along, but yet there's been a lot of changes, especially like in FFG. There's been a lot of people leaving just, in the past. Christensen Peterson, who started FFG, is gone. Andrew Navarro, who was running the studio, he left, and he's now with Chip Theory Games. Corey Konitzka I always say his name wrong. I'm sorry, Corey. A big designer for FFG is now left kind of doing his own thing. And also, while you were gone, Brad Andres, who designed Keyforge, has announced that he's leaving FFG. So there's a lot of big talent that is leaving that company. They've spun off the RPG section out. There's going to be another company. I can't remember where, or maybe it was the UK. I can't remember where, is going to be taking over all the lines of the RPGs. So that they're streamlining. Last week at Gamma, I heard a great interview with Steve Horvath, who's now running basically the studios over there now for FFG. He said that they're cutting back the number of the releases they're doing, making more quality releases, which is a thing that we've heard before. So it's just a lot has been going on with that company, which even makes this other news more interesting, is the fact that Colby from Plaid Hat Games, who started Plaid Hat Games, Colby Dalch, sold his company, and then it was eventually picked up by Asmodee, and now Colby has bought Plaid Hat back and is now an independent company again, and I am super excited about that because that company came out with some amazing games. Now they are no longer under Asmodee's thumb.
So I give him an opportunity to spread his wings.
And again, there was another amazing interview with Team Covenant did with him, just basically talking about why he did what he did. He was having some rough times in his personal life, thought it'd be best to go ahead and take this opportunity and sell it. But he said now he's in a much better place now, so he's taking it back. Now, he didn't get all the rights back to the games. There are some games that are still going to be under Asmodee, so he didn't get all the exact rights back, but he got some of them back. And one of the ones that he has talked about relaunching is Summoner Wars 2nd Edition. Did you ever play Summoner Wars?
No, I did not.
It is a really good tactical card-based game. It's kind of like where Crystal Clans came from. The idea of putting units on the board and moving around with cards. I'm really hoping that he takes some of the mechanics that they used in Crystal Clans and puts them in Summoner Wars, and I want to see what they do with it. And he said that if successful, that he's thinking about possibly relaunching Ashes.
Like a phoenix rising from the ashes.
Thematically, it would make total sense. It would be Rise of the Phoenix Born. I mean, come on. I mean, it would be great. The thing is, though, the designer of Ashes, Isaac Vega, is taking this opportunity to step away from Plaid Hat Games, and he's going to do his own thing. So if he does Ashes, I hope that Isaac will somehow still be involved some way. A lot of people are excited, and I'm excited for Colby too. I think I love the idea of here's this big conglomerate and an independent studio who was part of that is now independent again. And I love that. I love supporting the small guys. I love people like Capstone Games being successful. I hope Plaid Hat Games does well. I'm excited to see a new version of Summoner Wars, taking a lot of the things. I mean, that game is like over 10 years old. Taking a lot of things that's been learned over the past 10 years and reapplying it. I think the idea of having a card-based tactical combat game is very cool. Crystal Clans just didn't do that well. But who knows, with the right launch and the right competitive scene, it might do well. He said that was one of the issues they had with Ashes, that they didn't have the competitive scene done well. They didn't have the leagues and everything up and ready to go as they should, and it hurt the game. So a lot of exciting things going on, but kind of wrap up and kind of wrap around to the very first thing we started with. Tony, I really think that this whole coronavirus thing, we had predicted that in 2020 there was a lot of companies that was going to have to make some hard decisions. $3,500 new games, 4,000 new games a year, just doesn't seem sustainable because a lot of those games are just not going to be worth anything or make any money. So a lot of small publishers may get out. Well, now with what we have with the coronavirus and the production issues in China, I think it's really going to accelerate, I think, a shrinking of the choices that we're going to have on the shelves. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I hate for anybody to be hurt by that or anything, but I think for gamers, I think it's going to be good for us.
I agree with you, Marty, on that from the standpoint of that you can only play so much. We don't need all this choice. We don't need all this. There's so many games, so many good games, so many good designers out there that due to the competition, they're just not getting noticed. And maybe something will come out of positive from it. Unfortunately, with hopefully the finances, it will turn around for people. We know there's going to be layoffs. We know there's a recession. We know all this is coming, but hopefully it'll be a quick turnaround and the world will just get back to us being able to get together and keep rolling dice
and taking names. this was a longer one than normal, but Tony and I hadn't had a chance to talk in a while, so we had to get a lot out on the table. If you like what you've heard, please follow us on Twitter at Dyson Names, Instagram Dyson Names, join our BGG Guild 1589, and follow us on Facebook. We'll see you next episode. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
In 3, 2, 1, Tony.
Marty.
Wow. That was just a total brain fart. It was like, I'm going to go right into this. And I said, Tony's like, I don't know what I'm going to say. Try that again. The Broken Token is always coming out with amazing organizers, and just recently they released the Zombicide Sci-Fi Organizer, which is for Zombicide Invader. And you can go all the way from having just, hey, here's a little insert for your base game, all the way up to full-scale inserts that have storage for everything and all the expansions and everything that you may have gotten with the Kickstarter. They have it all, a whole range. You can go check them out at over at the Zombicide Sci-Fi Organizer. Just search for it right there on thebrokentoken.com. And while you're there, check out all their other amazing accessories and organizers. And again, you can find it all at thebrokentoken.com.